In this podcast episode, we want to introduce you to our BCEN friend, Reggie Santiago. Transitioning between careers can be difficult, and Reggie is no stranger to difficult challenges. From paramedic to RN to podcast host, Reggie chats about the good, the hard, and the people who help get you through it all. This episode is called Start Doing What You're Meant to Do.
Hello, and welcome to the BCEN Friends podcast, where we hold interesting conversations about learning with a range of thought leaders, BCN certification holders, and industry professionals. But most importantly, to create value and insight for you, our professional nurses across the emergency spectrum. We hope you find our discussions interesting, informative, sometimes funny, sometimes serious, and always valuable. I'm Holly Briggs, a professional development specialist at BCN, and one of your hosts for today. I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Dexter, Director of Professional Development at BCN. Hi, Michael.
Hello, Holly.
Glad to have you with us today. And in this episode of BCN and Friends, we have Reginald Santiago. As a combat veteran and former U.S. Army paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne Division out of Fort Liberty, Reggie has 30 years of combined military and civilian medical experiences in emergency trauma and critical care. And if that doesn't testify to his fearlessness, he also has a podcast about helping to bridge the gap between paramedicine and nursing. Michael, could you please introduce us to our BCN friend, Reggie?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to. Reggie Santiago is an inpatient care coordinator and case manager at Duke University's Hospital Raleigh campus. Over the past 30 years in healthcare, he's served in roles such as paramedic, adjunct paramedic instructor, tactical medical instructor, and special operations forces medical instructor, specializing in prolonged field care. Additionally, Reggie is the creator and host of the Paramedic to RN podcast. Reginald's educational background includes an associate's degree of applied sciences in emergency medical science, an ADN from Paramedic to RN Bridge program, and as well as his BSN. Reggie is currently pursuing a master's degree in Adult-Gerontology as a clinical nurse specialist at East Carolina University. He holds board certifications as a CEN, TCRN, CFRN, CTRN, and a CCRN, and is also a nationally registered paramedic. Reggie, welcome to the BCN and Friends podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you on here and get a little bit more info on you. And just out of curiosity, before we get too far down the road of all the great things you've done, what made you want to go into healthcare at all? Where did you start your whole healthcare journey? And obviously you've switched from paramedic to RN, and that's the name of your podcast. But after you tell us a little bit about your healthcare journey, maybe you could tell us why you went into nursing as well.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I think it's important to let you guys know that nursing is actually my fifth career. After I got out of the military, I tried to do everything. I got into sales, started selling cars, started selling legal plans, and I was at a point in my life to where I was just broke, and I was battling with a bit of depression during that time too. I ran into a good friend of mine from the military. This guy is a retired lieutenant colonel in special operations. His name is Dan Tomita. And this guy probably is one of the leading instructors right now when it comes to special operations, prolonged field care. And I ran into him. He basically was like, Reggie, what you doing with your life? And during that time, I told him, hey, look, I got it. I'm okay. He was like, no, you're not okay. Get your butt back in school. Get your paramedic. And so that's kind of what I did. I went back, went and got my paramedic, came out here to work. And during that time, he was able to kind of help me on the path. I was a street paramedic. I started to teach, other paramedics. I got a job as a contract special operations medical instructor on Fort Bragg, training special operators about medical procedures. And then I decided, during that time, I wanted to go to PA school. And really, PA school was my path. I felt like, look, PA school is what I want to do. And I ran into, I think, one of the most influential people that steered me toward nursing was a guy named Ronnie Paul. Ronnie is he's one of the house supervisors right now for the Army Womack Hospital. And he basically told me, look, nursing has a spot for you. And during one of my calls, I took a patient in to the Army Womack Medical Hospital. I was highly upset with the patient. I was highly disgruntled being a paramedic. And he told me, hey, look, when you're ready to make that switch to nursing, let me know. Ronnie was able to kind of coach me in what I needed to do to become a nurse. But I honestly came to nursing just because of the advanced practice side. And I just felt like my skills as a paramedic that I can, it'll work more on the advanced practice side. So I kind of ditched PA and looked at nursing. I just wanted to be an APRN. And that's what initially caught my interest.
So going back to being disgruntled about paramedic, because I think we hear that a lot even in nursing as well, is that, there's nurses that are disgruntled. So did you feel like at that point that nursing was truly going to be where you needed to go, or were you disgruntled in healthcare or just paramedicine?
As far as being disgruntled as a paramedic, what I didn't like was the fact that I was working so many hours, I was taking so many calls. But as a paramedic, I'll be frank with you, I was making $14.50 an hour. And keep in mind, I'm doing needle decompressing. I'm doing these advanced skills. I have advanced knowledge, and yet I'm getting paid like making $14.50 an hour. And I felt that I just needed to do something different. And that's what kind of made me look at PA as a route as opposed to just continuing on just being a paramedic.
Yeah, absolutely. I worked in EMS for a while myself, and I definitely understand the pay. When I started, I was as an EMT basic, I was making $6.15 an hour, and I was like, this is crazy. This is like minimum wage or below minimum wage. It felt like, but I certainly feel like if more people in the EMS world were paid more, that more people would stay in that field, because it is a very rewarding. There's a lot of autonomy there, which people enjoy. But it's a lot of long hours and low pay. And I think that drives a lot of people away, unfortunately.
And just looking at your military background, so even before you switched into healthcare, and then being in paramedicine, and then coming to nursing school and doing that initial training, I'm sure that there were some things from your past experiences that made that transition maybe a little bit easier. But also, I know some people who've had a similar path, and there have been some pretty big challenges when they're coming from, a different background and transitioning to nursing. So I guess my question for you, Reggie, is, what did you feel made that transition to nursing a little bit easier for you because of your past experiences? And then maybe what were some challenges that you faced when making that transition into nursing?
Oh, let me tell you, nursing school was hella hard. I kind of make this joke. I say it's higgity hard. It is. And the reason why is because you got to understand the difference between a paramedic and a nurse is that there's two different approaches to healthcare, especially when you're looking at your patient. Whereas as a paramedic, my whole thought process is I'm looking for life threats. I'm assessing my patient in 5 to 15-minute increments, and I'm looking for stuff like acuity changes or like new life threats. So the training tends to follow more of the medical model, science-based, where you just diagnose and treat. Nursing was totally different. Nursing is more holistic. It's kind of like, who are you? How did you get here? How can we prevent you from coming back? And who is your support system? So the nursing model is more based on Maslow hierarchy of needs and social determinants of health and holistic care. So it was a total difference in mindset change. And that's what the challenging part about nursing. Now, one of the things that I did notice that as a paramedic, when I came out into practice in the ED, I felt like I was years ahead of other nurses. And that's probably one of the advantages paramedics have when we come into nursing, especially when it comes to the ED or the ICU, because we come already with not only emergency knowledge, we come with assessment knowledge, we come with critical care knowledge. We know the we already know the patho of the disease process. And on top of that, we already know how to treat that patient. So it kind of makes us, like I say, like a super nurse. There are gives and takes on both parts. I would say the most challenging part is probably school-wise, because you're learning the basic foundation of nursing. But the advantages is when you actually get out here to practice.
Yeah, I've seen when it comes to skills and that initial patient assessment and really picking up on changes in patients' status. I feel like my coworkers who had EMS training, paramedicine, some type of like combat, they were like, whew, they were ways ahead.
Yeah. And I can give you an example. I tell you one real good example. So during one of my clinical times in the ED, and the patient was crashing, and the PA asked for push dose epi. And I remember everybody looking around the room like, what's push dose epi? I immediately grabbed a 1 to 10, fleshed out 9, drew up saline, and handed it to the PA. And the charge nurse afterwards looked at me and was like, how did you know that? I said, because I'm a paramedic. And she was like, hey, we need you on our team. So I'm telling you, like paramedic trained nurses are probably would be the best new grads in the ED.
Yeah, like I said, I think when it comes to certain aspects, especially emergent, urgent, those changing status, like there that past experience, that understanding that clinical side, like the again, my EMS and paramedic friends would kind of run circles around new grad nurses in that area. But to your point, having that kind of holistic mindset and really trying to figure out not only why is this patient here and what's going on with them, but really understanding what's their story? How did we get here? How are we going to move past this? Do they have what they need? So, and I think that medicine as a whole, you have to have a specialty that's geared towards that, or you miss out on a huge determinant of a person's overall health. And so I can see how that was probably a pretty big shift, but wow, that really makes your understanding of healthcare really well-rounded now that you have all the experiences that you have. Thanks for sharing your story too.
Yeah, I've been, listening to what you're doing and even, sharing the push dose epi story. It sounds like even though you were young in your career, you've definitely been seen as a leader in all that you do, and you've been a go-to resource for a lot of people. And um, certainly, I would say that your military background helps a lot of that. But beyond that, you're just a very motivated individual, and you have, as I mentioned earlier, I think 5 different board certifications. You maintain your paramedic. You're working towards your clinical nurse specialist, and so what has made you as an individual as motivated as you are? You could have just said, hey, I'm going to go straight to nursing and then right into an APRN program, but you chose to hold multiple specialty certifications. So why have you chosen that route?
Well, my motivation is really personal. One thing I share with you is when I grew up, even though I had a father, I didn't really have the guidance or the tools to really navigate life like I have. And, just to share with you, the reason I went into the military was because I didn't want to go to college. And the reason I didn't want to go to college, because frankly, I was a victim of my environment. I didn't think I was smart enough. And so coming out of high school, I went directly into the military. But when I got out of the military, it was just like I was when I first went in. And so I just tried to do other things, and it never really worked out. But a huge motivation for me is, number one, is self-improvement. I'm a big proponent of personal development. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but also I've been blessed to have a good wife. My wife is very well educated, has 2 master's degrees. She's the executive producer of my podcast. And just being around someone like her, you kind of have to step up. Now I feel like I'm at the point to where I don't have any limits holding me. So I just feel that I need to just get out here and do what I can do. And a gift to myself is, I'll tell you, a personal goal is to earn my doctorate. I'm gonna probably cry like a newborn baby just to hear Dr. Reginald Santiago, because just coming from a place when I didn't even think I was smart enough to go to college, but just to hear someone announce that, I'm gonna be no good. That's probably one of my major life goals. But that's what the ambition comes from. It's really just to prove to myself that I am smart and I do have a value to contribute to the society.
Well, how do you help push that mentality towards other people, because I think it's a great thing to have, and self-motivation is wonderful, and I want to be there when you get your doctorate. I think that would be cool. But for other people around you, there's a lot of nurses. There's millions of nurses in the world. Very few of them, in the grand scheme of things, I would say, go on to become board certified, and of those, few of them have as many as you have. So how could you motivate someone else, whether it's certification, whether it's going on to get an advanced degree or whatever it is? How do you find the right opportunity to motivate others like you've been motivated?
Anyone that knows me, that's around me, know that I'll always push the best for everyone else. I'm a firm believer that first you have to be your authentic self. And I think once you are authentic, the right people can find you. And for me, I'm a product of mentorship too. So I've had people around me that motivated me. And right now I'm being coached by Dr. Derek Glenn. He's over at Duke CRNA program. He's a fellow with the American Nurses Association. Dr. Michael Jones with ECU. He just got inducted into the fellow Academy of American Nurses. Dr. Bim Akintade, and also Dr. Ernest Grant, who's the past AMA president. We talk. And because they talk to me, it kind of helps motivate me as well. And it's the same thing. So when I get around other folk, like when I talk to people in the emergency department, I ask them, hey, you don't have your certification? Why not? What's holding you back from getting it? They say, well, I don't know if I want to spend the money. It's like, look, this is a representation of your expertise. Let people see you. And I'm not going to lie, I've gotten flack because I got it on my jacket. They see my board certifications, and sometimes people make the little snide remarks. They'll say, oh, so you just want to just tell everybody. And it's like, no, this is for me. So we just can't be afraid to let our expertise show. And what better way than with the board certification? But I encourage everyone, get your board certification, shows your expertise.
Yeah, there were so many snippets of what you just said that I feel like you could take and use to help challenge and motivate and push past some of the barriers that people create for themselves, whether it be that, I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that. I don't know if I know enough. I don't know if I'm experienced enough. I don't know if I have the time, the financial, so many things that people put in front of that goal, and that makes it seem insurmountable. But when you talk to someone who has blazed that trail or done that really challenging thing, and you hear them talk about just the pride and the care that they're able to provide and how they're able to be a resource, you hear that and you think, gosh, I want that too for myself. And it seems more doable when you hear somebody has done it. This kind of segues right into what I wanted to talk to you about. It's always fun to have someone with experience in the podcast space. You already mentioned that your wife is the editor, but you're the creator of the Paramedic to RN podcast. And you've done some video content creation as well on YouTube. And this is a space not everybody jumps into, certainly not within healthcare and nursing in general, but you talked about that mentorship aspect and how it's really impacted you. But what got you started on the path to having this podcast, and kind of give us a little bit of insight into what the podcast is about?
Sure. So Paramedic to RN is my experience coming from a paramedic, special operations, medical instructor, going through nursing school. And my goal was to help medics navigate nursing, especially explaining what the paramedic to RN bridge is, selecting a nursing program, how to be competitive, what the nursing world looks like, even for a medic. I wanted to find that, and I couldn't find it nowhere, especially on I searched YouTube, everything. I searched, I just could not find it. So I wanted to jump into that space to help others. But my main thing was I wanted to create an army of nurse medics, because paramedic training into RN is like a huge force multiplier for the healthcare system and also for the nursing profession. One of the things I like about nursing, I tell everyone, is that nursing has the ability to absorb other profession and kind of make its own. Like if you look at things like legal nurse specialists or a legal nurse consultant, you have case management, you have these other areas where it's almost like it absorbs other professions. And so to getting started, I guess it came in steps, because originally I blogged about my school experience. Like right now, if you go to paramedic2rn.com, that's an actual blog that I had from each class and my experiences, my costs, and everything. It was just a way that I went through school, got the information from the bridge. Now I'm gonna share it with all my friends and say, hey, look, if you want to go to this program, this is what the program is like, because I couldn't find it. It turned from the blog to like YouTube. Those are videos when I first started, just putting the information based on stuff from my blogs. I have paramedics from across the country that reach out to me to say, hey, look, I need your advice. And so far, I've gotten people like Aaron Deaver. He's a gentleman that consulted with me. He's going through a direct entry master's MSN program right now from being a paramedic with a bachelor's. Got another gentleman, Alexander Lane, same thing. I consulted with him. He's going through a paramedic to BSN program right now. So to me, it's just my way of giving back.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing, and hopefully a lot more people will join in on the Paramedic to RN podcast. And, paramedics do, like you said, they bring a whole nother skill set. And I've been a huge proponent of having paramedics readily available, even in the ED setting, and not working as a tech, but working as a paramedic that can use
Exactly.
the full set of their skills that they're trained to have, and really be a huge integral part of the team. So I think it's great that you're shining that light on the specific RN to the paramedics that are now RNs. And, you've mentioned different ones that have mentored you, but we always like to ask this question on our podcast. It's a standard one that we ask because we get so many unique, sometimes crazy and humorous answers. But, if you were to talk about a person or a certain moment in your career that really impacted you as an individual, I know finding a single person or a single moment might be difficult, but is there any particular thing that stands out to you in your career that's really made you who Reggie Santiago is today?
Actually, it's two people. One is Ronnie Paul, because I'm telling you, I would not be here if it wasn't for him, because he was the one who actually explained what nursing was and how nursing could change my life, coming from being a paramedic. That's so much misconception as a paramedic you have about nurses, because you kind of limited to your view. You kind of limited to your perception. I just saw nurses as I brought patients to the ED. That's as far as my nursing went. Even in the critical care environment, critical care transport, you get experience. You get used to seeing ICU nurses or ED nurses, depending on if you're doing in-facility transport or if you're doing a scene call. But it's the same thing. You still have a limited view of nursing. And it took someone like Ronnie Paul to kind of tell me exactly what nursing was and the space that I wanted to get in with the skill set I already had, how I could benefit myself and also how I can help others. Dr. Derek Glimpf is an excellent example of now, because I got to a point, even when I came to nursing, that I realized I didn't want to be a provider. I think working in the ED, seeing the heavy caseloads, and I was just like, I don't want that life. But I got stuck. I didn't know where I wanted to go. And so just having a mentor like Dr. Glimpf, even though I didn't want to be a CRNA, Dr. Glimpf was able to kind of help mold me. And that's what made me choose clinical nurse specialist, because it was the best set of skills that I had. I was able to talk to the staff at East Carolina. One of my professors and head of the program, Dr. Passwater and Dr. Linder, they was able to see the skills that I had and the talents that I had, and that clinical nurse specialist was the best route for me. So those are the folks who really just impacted me. But if I had to say, it couldn't be one, it had to be two. That would be Dr. Derek Glimpf and also Ronnie Paul.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing those with us. And hopefully Dr. Glimpf and Ronnie Paul can hear this. And I'm sure that they already know how much you appreciate them. Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask some more questions.
I always say that I get the fun part, but it's really so we can ask some questions and get to know you a little bit better. I mean, we've gotten some background within healthcare and kind of nursing, paramedics, so we've gotten a lot of that, but I want to ask a few rapid fire questions so we can get to know you a little bit better as a person. So here we go. If there was a career outside of healthcare that you haven't already tried, but that you'd like to try, what would it be?
A career outside of healthcare? Lord.
And that you haven't already tried, so you can't say sales. You got to go somewhere else.
That's right.
You know what? I'll be an attorney. My grandmother is the 5th Black woman in the state of Georgia to pass the bar.
Wow,
Get it.
that's awesome.
Attorney. And the good news is in nursing, you can leverage your healthcare knowledge and be an attorney that understands all the ins and outs. You wouldn't have to, you would be looking at those charts and finding the holes in a minute. So yeah, I think that question can be really difficult when you've had like a varied background as far as just like work-wise and things that you've done. So it's hard to think about, well, what haven't I done? But I like that you were able to quickly jump on. And I think that's super cool that you have that family tie, that you would be continuing that legacy. So that's awesome.
Well, you know what? Maybe I should go back and get my JD too.
For someone like you, Reginald, I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility.
I'm sure you'll be signing up tonight on some program.
Yeah. It's gonna be the RN, the paramedic to RN to law degree podcast.
Hey.
You're just keep adding it on. Love that. Okay, so I have some category of favorites, and again, this can be like your all-time favorite. It can be something you're currently into or kind of looking at right now. But what was your favorite book?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
Okay, say that one more time for me because I need to write it down.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
I always like to write it down so that way I can start putting on my library list. Okay, so thanks for sharing that. It's definitely one I haven't read, but I'll be sure to check it out. Your favorite movie, TV show, or it can be a binge-worthy series that you'd recommend because everybody's always looking for the next thing.
I got two. I got a favorite movie and I got a favorite like TV show.
Let's have them.
So my favorite movie is The Rookie. Dennis Quaid was a high school coach. And he always wanted to be a pitcher, but he never come from a small town, never became a pitcher. And then his team made a bet, hey, you'll try out if we win the state. And they won the state. He went to try out and he wound up in the major leagues. Yeah, that's my favorite movie. And also my favorite TV show is On Patrol Live, formerly Live PD.
Okay, sometimes, and I'm one of those people, especially when I used to have cable, which, now everything's just streaming on multiple different services. But when I used to come up on shows that were that kind of reality, police situation, I would find myself sucked into an episode so fast. So I'd either have to like scroll really fast or I might end up watching 2 to 10 episodes. So I understand that.
Look, it's sad to say, I just want to see people run and I just like to see them chase them and tase them. I'm sorry. I know I'm morbid, but I just love to see them run. I'm the one to sit on the couch like, go.
It's so, hey, I mean, obviously you're not the only one since these shows tend to do very well. So
hey,
you're
job
not
security.
alone.
Hey, it gives us job security,
You're not alone. Yeah, they'll be coming to see us shortly. All right. Favorite musical artist?
Jay Dilla. I'm a hip hop head.
All right. So, I mean, do you like all hip hop? Or are we talking like a certain?
Not all hip hop. I don't like a lot of the stuff that's real demeaning. I don't do that, but I like, because I like knowledge. I like wordplay, similes, metaphors, and things of that nature. It's almost like a poet that can say one sentence, but it means like 5 different things. That's intriguing to me. It just stimulates me mentally.
I appreciate a musical artist who's not only maybe they have some type of musical instrument or maybe they're just a really great singer, whatever it might be. But I appreciate one who actually writes their lyrics and it's in such a way that it is kind of like there's the surface level of what they're saying, and then there's like the 4 layers deep.
Exactly.
Like, what? Not only like just a beautiful, a well-written line, but they actually said multiple things that,
exactly.
If you dig a little deeper, you see usually a lot of truth, and it's like a deep dive into their lyrics.
Yeah. Michael over there looking like he has Eminem in his catalog.
Actually, it's funny you say that because I actually saw an interview of Eminem one time where he talked about how he had a goal to have words that rhymed with words that don't normally rhyme, like the word orange. and like he was trying to come up with ways. And I think that there is a lot of that complex thought process that goes into like how words are not only formed, but how they're utilized in various ways to mean different
Exactly.
things. I'm with you on certainly understanding your point with that. I don't listen to much hip hop, or I don't listen to hip hop at all, really. But I think the concept behind it, like you're talking about, is definitely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we're going to skip down to this last question I have for you. And we're always interested, mostly because the vast majority of guests who come on this podcast, they're people who know how to keep very full calendars, schedules, and lifestyles, right? So I'm always curious, kind of what do you do that you would consider a hobby, or maybe something that's self-care that really helps you reset? What is that for you?
So a couple of things. One is I love to give back. Me and my wife, we have this thing where we started last Christmas where she went and bought like a whole bunch of stuff. It was soap, it was bottled water, and we kind of wrapped them up in plastic bags and put them in like little Christmas balls. And we literally just went down to a street that a lot of the homeless, and we just passed them out. And so really just kind of giving back to the less fortunate is probably one of the ways. But honestly, the way I reset is I spend time with my wife, and because she balances me. When I'm off track, she gets me back on track. But also, she's the executive producer of my podcast. She's the one that come up with all the ideas. Honey, you should do this. And I just say, yeah, sure, I do it. And then, I'll be like, I don't feel like doing it. And she just kind of gets on me. So that's what resets me, just her.
It's awesome when you can have not only someone who's your spouse and supports you in your work and professional life, but also challenges you, helps to stretch you a little bit, understands, kind of the ebbs and flows of your personality, and also kind of the season that you're in. Sometimes you need kind of a hand to hold, and then sometimes you need like someone jerking your arm a little bit to get you to move.
Yeah.
And it's awesome when you have that type of relationship and people around you who will do that. So your wife sounds like a huge part of your life and an awesome person to know. So if our audience wants to follow you online, what social media platforms are you on?
Sure. You can find me at Paramedic 2, is the number 2 RN. They can find me on my podcast on all platforms like Spotify and everything else. But also I'm on Paramedic 2 RN on Instagram and also TikTok.
Awesome. Well, we will post that in the blog for this episode. So thanks for sharing all that.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Reggie, it's been really great chatting with you today and getting to know, a lot more about you. And obviously, I like talking with people that are motivated and are inspiring other people as well. So the fact that you have mentors, that you've mentored others, I think it's really necessary in all different parts of life, but especially in nursing and healthcare, to have people like that you can surround yourself with, or that you can help others on their journey. And it's nice to hear that you're doing both of those things. So thank you for sharing that with us. I think we could talk all day about your military background as well. I would love to hear more about prolonged field care and, all of these different things that you've been involved in, but just really great to be able to sit down and chat with you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to take this time to thank Reggie for joining us for this episode of BCEN Friends. Thank you, Reggie, for sharing your perspectives, your experiences, and your can-do spirit with us. You've crossed so many barriers and built so many bridges, and not just for your own career, but in the way that you've mentored others and helped them embrace career challenges armed with better resources and shared insight. We truly appreciate you and all that you are doing. And to our listeners, we hope you will stay tuned as we continue with BCEN and Friends and bring you new, meaningful content and perspective. If you have a suggestion for an episode, please email us at bcn@bcn.org. I'm Holly Briggs, here with Michael Dexter, and on behalf of the entire BCEN team, we thank and celebrate you for all that you're doing as professional nurses across the emergency spectrum. Until next time, we are out.